According to Mythos, 100% of you are subscribed. Good job!
As Starrail keeps on releasing new patches, they also keep on bringing us new relic sets for us to build our characters. But also, this is a great opportunity for them to add more lore. And in particular, it is a perfect way for them to introduce lore regarding very specific characters, whether they are playable or not. Which is one of the reasons why I have been adoring diving deep into the stories that can only be found within the relic sets that you can get in Honkai Star Rail. In this video, we are going to be covering 6 relic sets, in particular the ones that released in patch 2.0 until just before 3.0. These ones being the Longevus Disciple set, Messenger Traversing Hackerspace, the Ashblazing Grand Duke, Prisoner in Deep Confinement, Pioneer, Diver of Dead Waters, and the Watchmaker, Master of Dream Machinations. This particular batch has a lot of very interesting individuals, so I cannot wait to dive deep into these with you all. So with all of that said, let us begin.
Longevus Disciple. Disciple's Prosthetic Eye. In the dim, chaotic dreamscape, she always dreamed of the brightness she had seen in those few days. Thousands of acres of eucalyptus trees swayed gently, and petals fluttered in the breeze. The indigo waves beat against the rocks and turned into scattering white jade. Flying birds spread their silver wings and disappeared into the green bamboo forest. She was always searching for someone else in her dreams, the one who should have enjoyed the scenery with her, but all she could see was a blurry figure. She remembered clearly the short, silky hair, the eyes like black jade stones, but her memories were faded into a maze constructed by her nervous system, and she always woke up with a start just before seeing the face clearly. In a daze, she touched her prosthetic eye that caused her so much pain. With the help of the false eye, she no longer needed to piece together a blurry figure by sound, smell, and touch. "It's no longer of use," said the emanator of the Ruin Author. She heard the sound of the swaying hand fan and the fitting laughter of the emanator. "Soon, you'll be able to see everything you want to see with your own eyes." "This eye is my own," she chuckled. "Besides, never will I have the chance to see the scenery it once witnessed again." Disciple's Ingenium hand, applying the protective gel to her underdeveloped arm stump, attaching the neural signal receivers tightly to her skin, and adjusting the tightness to firmly fix the Ingenium wooden hand to her body. This has been her morning ablutions every morning for hundreds of years. The wooden hand has brought her unwanted attention, but she neither wanted to invite trouble nor seek sympathy. Despite possessing unrivaled talents and holding the reins of an entire commission in her hands, the alienating attitude others showed towards her as a broken person never changed. Cowardly bullies eventually scattered to the winds, only to be replaced by flattering hypocrites with pretended pity who gathered like flies around her and gave fake praise to the amazing, blind, and one-armed incomplete one. She has heard variations of this sentence thousands upon thousands of times in the past, and each time it made her wanting to puke. Now, as she faces these fawning faces begging for her mercy, she only feels disgust. She unconsciously places her left hand onto the boiling cauldron, A sharp pain instantly shoots through her body. She quickly withdraws her hand and sees the blister in her palm healing rapidly. Sometimes, I feel the old wooden hand is more useful. Disciple's Dewy feather garb. Searching for information in fragments of historical text is particularly difficult for the blind. Her companions read the vast amount of ancient text to her indiscriminately, and she compiled and excerpted the sentences in order to explore the mysteries within. With her extraordinary intelligence, she can remember most of the passages after only listening to them once. However, she listened repeatedly to the witch in rope feather ghost story unearthed from a scroll pile, never growing bored of it. According to legend, a certain delf master saved her partner by placing their soul into a bird, granting them immortality. However, she eventually could not resist the call of the avian and transformed into a bird, flying alongside them. Over time, the Delph Master became confused and lost her true form, becoming a half-feathered, half-human monster. When her subjects stormed the palace and pierced her with blazing spears and arrows, two birds sang a final mournful song and turned to ashes together. She loved this story so much that she took the essence and marrow of birds and transformed them in the alchemical furnace. Then had someone weave these materials into a luxurious feather coat. She could not see just how beautiful the coat was, but nonetheless enjoyed walking around the house while wearing it. It was meant to be seen by a person who no longer existed. As the garb fluttered, she always felt that a bird-like soul was flying and passing through her hands and shoulders, ever present. Disciple's celestial silk sandals. Whenever she detaches herself from the grasp of gravity and levitates to display celestial traces to the faithful, she can't help but think of an ancient legend from the primeval Imperium. There once was a practitioner of immortal arts who had some success in their pursuit. They walked on the earth, employing the essence of its ley lines to perform a myriad of miraculous techniques. The practitioner then attempted to take to the skies to be among the stars, but found that they had long since drifted away from the earth's ley lines, and eventually fell into the abyss of death. However, she believed the current situation is different. The Xianzhou had no roots. It was the ambrosial arbor that gave it a connection and a coexistence with the Aeon of Abundance, tying it tightly together with the immaculate pure land promised by Yaoshi. But now, the traders have severed the connection to the way of immortality, making the Xianzhou once again a precarious island floating rootless in space. The false earth on the Xianzhou cannot give her strength. The roots she seeks are not under her feet, but in the bottomless chasm between stars. She will lead the disciples to give the ambrosial arbor a second life and embrace the supreme grace of abundance. Floating above thousands of people, clad in boots light as silk, she declares in a resounding voice, "When you look up at me, what you see is not me, but the celestial and elevated position that should have belonged to you."
This relic set does such a good job in humanizing the followers of abundance. Because hearing about the prosthetic arm, the prosthetic eye, how these things were causing pain to the user is really, really interesting. And like, it's not about like, people were following the abundance in search of immortality. No, it's just also in search for quote unquote normalcy, to be able to properly feel the touch of someone with their own arms, to be able to properly see. Like, everything was blurry for Dan Shu, and yeah, like, they were just in so much pain. all throughout. Additionally, I would also go into my villain arc if I was called the amazing blind and one-armed incomplete one. That is absolutely insane. Like, that feels so fucked up, but yeah, no, that's just crazy. And also like the concept of like making sure your loved ones don't go away. We've seen that with Hanya and Shui, who both are being punished by the Ten Lords Commission because they essentially caused sin. Hanya is essentially constantly getting Mara struck, whilst Shui is in an immortal body because they keep on reviving as a robot. It's horrifying. Or, well, minor correction. Hanya is not Mara struck, but she's in the process of getting it, because every time Shui dies, it's so much grief that would lead her into becoming Mara struck, but then she drinks a little potion to make her forget about the death, which makes sure that she doesn't, which is so insane. Again, like, learning more about this other perspective is kind of just crazy, but I love it. Messenger Traversing Hackerspace. Messenger's Holovisor. To avoid the private forces hired by the financial magnates, messengers in the capital of Passion usually travel in the skies above the city, where security forces are scarce. They like to turn on pulse scanning and look over the entire cyber city while chewing cheap gum and donning heavily modified holovisors. The holovisors project real-time information of the city directly onto the messenger's retina, turning impossible routes into an aerial path for the messengers. Building rooftops, air conditioning units, billboards, the arms of cranes, even unmanned logistic drones can become part of the path. Therefore, messengers must be skilled enough as even one misstep would result in an unexpected and lethal fall. Some fool jammed all the holovisors indiscriminately while I was in the air. That crash was the worst I've ever had. This yellow ducky holovisor is a discontinued old model that is said to be of considerable value among enthusiasts. Messenger's Transformative Arm. Not all messengers have cybernetic prosthetic arms, but those who do often have a strong passion to modify it. After all, no one wants to have a cybernetic limb that looks identical to everyone else's. The residents of the capital of Passion are obsessed with cybernetic prosthetics, while the city's limited regulations can only advise against the frenzy of excessive body modification. The registered standards for modifications in the capital of Passion only contain 3 categories, with a total of 18 types. This is clearly not enough for the rebellious messengers. They invest huge amounts of their salaries into imaginative designs. They create blueprints that enable their electronic conversion machinery to release lightning or transform their prosthetic hands into missiles. And the designs become increasingly outrageous as fees to engage messengers skyrocket. Are these messengers running to protect information, or are they running to earn exorbitant fees? This yellow ducky prosthetic arm has undergone special modifications, with each finger joint able to rotate at high speeds and be launched like a bullet. Messenger's Secret Satchel. Financial magnates in the capital of Passion monitor all information flow in the city. They are used to maintaining their dominance using information monopoly, and all who try to subvert this control will be punished by the public security regulation. People once protested, which only made the financial magnates dish out some conventional compromises. Soon enough, people gave up on the idea of privacy. The financial magnates greedily collect every piece of information, whether it is important or trivial, or whether it arose from reality or virtual realms. As a result, the messenger's courier satchels have become the final bastion of privacy. The satchel is small, lightweight, and can only carry chips or documents. Despite these shortcomings, the final remains of information independence in the capital of Passion was solely ensured by these tiny blind spots. Why do people still transmit information outside of the internet in this prosperous capital of Passion? The messengers also want to know the answer. This limited edition Yellow Ducky Courier Satchel may be a bit old, but its various accessories make it still in fashion. Messenger's Par-kool sneakers. The former capital of Passion messengers all throw their sneakers into one spot and leave after a brief moment of silence. Most messengers wouldn't leave their name or even a trace in this city, making their behavior nothing but a self-indulgent coda. Even messengers can't pinpoint when the nature of being a messenger had changed to make them the people they hated the most. Insidiously, the information independence that messengers protected became a monopoly. Insidiously, the risks that messengers faced became a bargaining chip. Insidiously, messengers became the accomplices of conspirators. The financial magnates did not destroy the messengers. It was their immature ideas that betrayed them. The messengers assembled before everything totally spirals out of control and bid a last farewell to their hurried lives. Perhaps this should be the end for the messengers. Perhaps we should let everyone see the truth of this city and let the true reformists take action. These are a pair of yellow ducky sneakers abandoned on the side of the road. The messengers of the capital of Passion have long become a legend of the past. I really enjoy the concept of this relic set because of how it slowly but surely devolves from the original idea that it was trying to represent. Like we see at the beginning, the Holovisor that is used to navigate the city as effectively as possible, trying to oppose the magnates, and just it's a perfect utility-based item. But then we move on to the gloves, that for some reason the fingers can act like bullets. We see the satchel, which it's actually really good and useful. The idea of like privacy is great, and I will always be supportive of that. Screw giving and selling your data to companies, but throughout all of it, we see that there's like the little rubber ducky design because people end up just trying to use it also as a fashion statement, and because it's cool and because they need to be extravagant with their designs as messengers. And it ends with the boots saying, oh yeah, you know, they finally realized that the magnates were never really gonna finish off the messengers. It was just the messengers that finished themselves off because they sort of killed the original idea of what the like messenger traversing hackerspace was. And so they decided to abandon because they were no longer the idea they were supposed to represent. I don't know. I just find it to be really cool, and I really adore that. The Ashblazing Grand Duke. Grand Duke's crown of Netherflame. The elegant fire demon was born in the most fiery of all fires, and believes destruction to be the supreme glory bestowed upon Fetora.
I, born on the eve of destruction, am the sinful belief of Fetora. I am the furious flames of Nanook.
Nanook destroyed Fetora by their own hands, and the White Star's flames coalesced with the power of destruction to birth plasmic life forms. The elegant fire demon saw its birth as a revelation.
Today, the Lord of Destruction conquered Fetora. They honored it with blazing flames. The frivolous and meaningless glory evaporate with the solar flare, but concrete and heavy glory shall mark my coronation.
Ifrit has been obsessed with destruction and slaughter since birth.
The laurels of honor in this world are woven of thorns. The only laurel that surpasses these thorns is my supreme crown of Netherflame.
The embers left behind from the Aeon of Destruction's annihilation of a star were clasped in Ifrit's own hands, molded into a shape of Fetora's crown, and worn to this day. Grand Duke's gloves of fiery fur. Ifrit orchestrated countless crises bent on annihilating lives. The Grand Duke fancied themselves as a conductor and must wear gloves to hold the conductor's baton covered in thorns.
I come with destruction's revelation. One hand giveth, and the other taketh away.
Firmly believing that the preciousness of something can only be appreciated in its eradication, Duke Inferno torched the history and culture of the planet Lysolith, scorching the brilliant silks of the aristocracy, incinerating the long scrolls of the poets, racing the vivid murals of the painters to ash.
Civilization is like a larva. It will only be reborn in its burning execution. When it turns into a black butterfly that flutters away in the wind.
Like an undertaker who lowers their head to monitor the crematorium's furnace, Ifrit guides civilization into their swan song.
Through my efforts, imagination, and direction, the synchronization, number of performances, tone, and tempo of the different catastrophes all fuse into a brilliant masterpiece of destructive performance.
After the end of satisfying destruction, Ifrit wipes the blood off their hands and dons pristine white gloves again, as if they were an aristocrat attending a banquet. Grand Duke's robe of grace. The elegant fire demon admires their image in the dressing mirror after an inhumane massacre. An audience with a monarch always requires appropriate finery.
The purpose of clothing is not to adorn one's appearance, but to display one's true essence, just as the essence of flame is to destroy.
The ever-burning clan of fire demons regards the Nook as their emperor and savior, but the Aeon had never glimpsed them. Ifrit's destruction is laced with flaunts, power, conquest, and motivation, and the rivalry between the Everflame Mansion and the Japella Brotherhood was even more sordid. Impure destruction stains the most magnificent garments more easily than dirt. Regarding purity, Ifrit has never been able to grasp its essence from the start.
The value of destruction lies in the value of the things destroyed. Our value lies in our practice of destruction until our Emperor takes notice.
Ifrit, with piety in their heart, wears brocaded garments woven with velvet red flames, and waits for the summon of the destruction. Grand Duke's ceremonial boots. Wherever the elegant fire demon's trail wound, the smoldered civilizations silently wailed. Ifrit never paid them any attention.
Those who don't have no roads left to walk on don't need boots. Why must these civilizations at their end whinge at me?
Duke Inferno, with a crown of fire on their head, is considered by many civilizations as an otherworldly demon. Yet they received an invitation from the planet of festivities. Ifrit is happy to attend in full ceremonial garb.
I will prepare a courteous and thoughtful destruction, and not a single bone will be left behind.
The elegant fire demon assembles a party of cosmic evil and plans the grandiose scene of offering a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood for the banquet. Those destroyed civilizations are but mere stops on the pilgrimage of destruction, and Penacony will be just another pit stop along the way.
Your destruction is nothing personal. It is just for the purpose of earning their gaze.
At the sound of the distant banquet calling, Ifrit cheerfully embarks on the long journey to the feast. Okay, for as much as I like to shit on and make fun of Duke Inferno, I really enjoyed listening to the entire concept of this, and also it kind of solidifies more why he has this obsession with the destruction, as to why he is a follower of it, because he was born from it, which is kind of crazy, but also just the ideology that he follows behind his destruction is kind of cool to see. Again, it's not like for the sake of being evil, I will destroy things, like kind of it is, but it's also the concept of destruction has a value based on the value of what it is that you are destroying. That idea seems really cool to me. Just that he is seeking for harder things to destroy to satisfy that urge and need that he has. Like, I don't know, I find it fascinating. And I do like that, that makes so much sense as to why he would set his eyes on going towards Penacony after being invited. Which also, I'm still not sure why he got invited, but oh well. And this obsession with his destruction is what drives him to be constantly seeking the approval of Nanook. And, he never got it, but at least it's nice to see that there was some motivation behind that dedication. Prisoner in Deep Confinement. Prisoner's sealed muzzle. Smell was the sense that constructed the Borisin Warhead's sense of the world. Rain, dust, campfire, blood, medicine. From the deepest part of the battlefield, it came shaking and wafting, a torrent of odors that flooded every inch of his neurons. All he could smell now is the heavy sturdiness of the torture devices and the cowering fear of the jurors filling the air. He knows that these weak-fleshed judges are afraid of the sharpness of his fangs. He had stood on the precipice of a steep cliff, bathed in the moonlight of madness, and felt the instinctive impulse in his veins. He had followed the labyrinth of smells, penetrating into the enemy's camp in the darkness of a lightless night, and crushed the skulls of his prey one by one. The Borisin Warheads admire the concept of polished fangs, regarding them as blades and spears, symbols of the power and confidence to tear apart anything. Borisin Broodlord gnashed and gnawed on flesh, devouring the blood of innocents. He is sentenced to a lifetime in a cage, with his face covered in a closed mouth muzzle, convicted of the 10 unpardonable sins. The Warhead contemptuously looked around. The Swordmaster, who engulfed everything like an icy sea of fury, is not there. He has no interest in this tedious sentence. Prisoners let stone shackles. As the clouds parted, the moon's shadowy light poured over the Warhead's scarred body. The huge claw that was slashed off by the silver-haired Swordmaster was left aside, and the desperate Warhead's blood vessels pulsated furiously, accompanied by a long, painful howl. He grew his sharp claws once more. Catalyzed by moon madness, the Warhead barely caught up with the moonlight-like sword strikes. He prayed silently to the power of abundance, determined to finish the final fight as a trapped beast. He had already forgotten how many times the Borisin army had broken through, only remembering the countless times his soldiers had used their claws to tear open the gaps in their advance, only for it to tighten close again. The exhausted Borisin relied on their nigh indestructible regeneration, struggling to tear down all obstacles before them. The Warhead's blood soaked his claws, and he sank into a trance, only to suddenly realize that he had nowhere to run, and there are no more soldiers following him. Borisin Broodlord, you have taken countless lives by your hand. Your wrists shall be bound in lead and stone and put under strict control. The Warhead finally collapsed, powerless in front of the Swordmaster. For the first time, he felt that exhausting near-death experience.
What an incomparable blade. You couldn't help but think, what an incomparable thrill.
Prisoner's repressive straitjacket. The Borisin are warriors by nature. Their bone structure is broad and lean, with powerful jaws and neck muscles. They have well-developed canine teeth, beast-like ears on top of their heads, and sharp claws on their hands and feet. The Borisin worship the concept of a strong body, seeing strong physique as a blessing from the gods. The Warhead is both the spiritual leader and the strongest warrior of the tribe, commanding its tide-like army and dominating life and death on the battlefield. The fearsome beast ships setting off covered the very sky, and he looked down at the restless warriors on the battlefield. The Borisin Warhead felt the call of moon madness. Sharp bone spikes pierced through his body, and his pitch black blood disappeared in the wind like mist. He stretched out his arms like a martyr. The Borisin's lupitoxin, the fear-inducing pheromone, dispersed along with the blood mist and stimulated the Borisin warrior senses, making them seem possessed by the power of gods and demons. O Broodlord, grant us muscles of iron and bones of steel. O Broodlord, grant us the power of the gods. He recalled the days when flesh and blood were not restrained. Children of the Borisin who carry moon madness in them had broken through the limitations of flesh and blood. Their bodies erupted and deformed, yet no longer able to feel pain or fear. Guiding them was once a privilege, and the responsibility reserved only for the strong. Prisoners' restrictive fetters. The Borisin roamed the galaxy, despising the settled civilizations. They took away peace and tranquility and brought all-consuming war with them. Their harsh beliefs in survival compel them to fight incessantly, ever devoting themselves to a life of bloodshed. They have their own beliefs and ways. Wherever the Borisin set foot, it becomes their territory and nation. The Borisin Warhead takes pride from igniting one flame of war after another, crushing the dignity of protectors, drinking the tears of the displaced, and trampling on the trust of close ones. He allowed thorns to grow wild and fertile land to be destroyed, forced people into slavery, and enjoyed an extravagant life. In order to surpass the past leaders, the new Warhead had to cast aside peace and lead his soldiers on an expedition to the outside world in order to make a name for himself and affirm his position in the tribe. Borisin Broodlord, with you come war and a scourge upon all worlds. Your sentence is to be eternally detained and imprisoned, never to be reborn. The Warhead is puzzled by the sentence. He looks around, confused at the trials of the weak. Those so-called crimes are nothing more than the laws of survival. Okay, I love this, because once again, we get to see more lore towards the perspective of the antagonists of Stariel. In particular, this one talks about Hoolay, and I like it also gives us more of the perspective of the Borisins as a whole. Like the idea that Hoolay not only is the Warhead, because he is the strongest Wolf Lord within his tribe, but he is also considered the spiritual leader, that above all he is standing at atop of all of them, and that he sort of acts as the bridge between the Borisins and their deity, which I think would be in this case Yashur. Not entirely sure, that's just an assumption, because they do mention a god and that they're asking for strength, so I think that would be it. They also mention how, big emphasis on power, how polished fangs and claws are a symbol of strength, and they will always be admiring that their bloodlust is so strong that this is, they're basically hunters by instinct, and the more that they rely on these instincts, the better they end up performing. And we get to see more of how Hoolay was imprisoned, which is really cool, because throughout the entire process, he could not care about the trial that was sentencing him. Like, some of the people in the trial were even scared of Hoolay, despite him being muscled, restrained, in a straitjacket. He couldn't do much of anything, yet people were still terrified of him. Shows a lot of how much of a menace he is. But even then, he didn't care about them. He just was like, oh, cool, you guys are here. I'm not sure why you're shocked, but okay. He only cared about the words that Jing Liu was telling him, this is where you're going to be sentenced. That's it. That's the only reason why he was aware of what's going on. I'm pretty sure, at the very end, it's he's saying, I'm not sure why I'm being sentenced. This is just the law of nature. And yeah, that's just really cool. I love it. Pioneer, Diver of Dead Waters. Pioneer's heat-proof shell. Clouds accumulate over Orkron's night sky, and shimmering planetary rings are concealed within them. Scarlet snowflakes fall on the heavy helmet, quietly filling the grooves of rusted iron, covering the traces of erosion. The two girls sit in the cedarwood forest, taking a momentary break in their journey. Look, the air in Orkron smells like raspberries. Scarlet snowflakes fall on the soft, cloud-like sugar threads and quickly disappear. The little nameless from Toiro laughs and then bends over holding her stomach. She laughs at her own choice of words. How can one see a scent with one's eyes? After a moment of shared laughter, the silence cuts like a shared blade, and the air seems to frost over in an instant. Freybas, are you still going to the depths of IX? The question comes from her companion, who is always carrying a long blade. She is a good companion, but no one knows where she came from. The little nameless hides inside her bulky diving suit. A long pause later, she hands the companion a slightly burnt marshmallow. Her eyes narrowed like the silhouette of a fully opened sail. Of course, because I walk on the road deeper and further than Akivilli's Pioneer's Lacuna Compass. The underneath in the sea, whispering as it pecked at her bones. In one rise and fall of time, she experienced the stages of old age and youth, and entered the vortex. The girl has heard a story like this. In the story, the world people inhabit is depicted as a towering tree, composed of ownerless energy. This kind of energy is invisible, intangible, incomprehensible, and meaningless, she thought. Just like how IX has no meaning. The little nameless is somewhat melancholic, worrying about how she would orient herself after stepping into the depths of nihility. But soon, she had an inspiration. On her 14th birthday, her mother left her with one last gift, a small compass. If that's the case, as long as the compass senses not the magnetic field, but energy, wouldn't that solve the problem? The little nameless removed the magnetic needle from the compass, but when the girl descended into the darkness, she realized that the compass's only direction was down. Pioneer's sealed lead apron. Freybas, the nameless from Toiro, died for 14 days and 14 nights. She forgot the cries of seagulls, the roar of the abyss, the gains and the losses. The little nameless gazed at the planetary ring wider than the boulevards of Toiro. She decided to launch herself into the singularity in the black hole. Even Akivilli didn't manage to go there. The girl could always hear the distant sound of waves echoing in her heart. I will walk on a road deeper and further than Akivilli's. She prepared herself thoroughly. Unidentified rusty metal plates, used oxygen tanks, discarded gyroscopic posture control devices, a self-circulating life support system, and a rectifying hood. She soldered all the materials together, ensuring that the entire suit was airtight. She believed it would protect her from the harm of nihility. She picked up the diving helmet her father left behind, and wore a self-made medallion of honor. Before leaving, she and her companion once again went to the cedarwood forest, toasting marshmallows one last time. Later, when Freybas' spacecraft approached the edge of the black hole, this was all she could recall about Orkron. Pioneer's star-faring anchor. Oh, you who turn the wheel and watch the wind, think of Freybas, and how she was once as beautiful and stood as tall as you. The lead boots, like anchors, dragged the girl down further and further. They are dutifully carrying out the task bestowed upon them from the beginning of their conception. The girl never closes her eyes, fighting boldly against the cold and lonely darkness. She remembers the first time she heard stories about Akivili. She remembers the first day she set upon the journey and the medallion of honor she forged for herself. She remembers the 30 days she spent journeying with her companion. She remembers the forest glade they gathered in for the first and last time, and how the air there tasted like raspberries. She remembers whistles, guitars, and the flute, and the songs they sang together. She remembers scarlet snow falling on slightly burnt marshmallows and disappearing. The vast void looms near the vivid memories. Yet, she suddenly sees a dash of crimson blinking briefly into existence in the center of the pitch-black world. Therefore, the little nameless remembers the smile she gave from the bottom of her heart when the girl with the sword took the marshmallow for the final time. I never thought I would meet anyone similar to me. You walked so much further on this road than me. Therefore, you will surely walk with me till the end, right? Of course, our end has already been determined. However, just like you said, even though I may turn into a shallow puddle of dead water in the end, there is still a lot I can do in my journey toward that moment. Therefore, no matter what, I have to go try it. Because I will walk on a road deeper and further than Akivili's. Honestly, I'm not really sure what else to add or comment on regarding this relic set. Like, we haven't really met Freybas, aside from a couple mentions that Acheron has made. I do find it very endearing and very sweet that it shows this story about how, you know, they're friends, how they shared marshmallows, there was the snow that smelled like raspberries, something like that. And I do find it very sweet that, like, in the last moments of Freybas, she was thinking about Acheron as she was diving deeper and deeper into IX's nihility. It's really crazy. But yeah, I do like the mindset that Freybas has of, I am going to journey where nobody else has journeyed, because that is the adventure I seek. I want to aim higher and higher. Kind of horrifying that they, you know, self-annihilated, I'm pretty sure. But still, that's a cool mindset to have, to just keep pushing forward. So yeah, I do have to say, even though she did think out the process of what she was going to do, which is really good, not many people do that, it does suck that her efforts ended up quote-unquote failing. Like, she did venture into IX, but like, she didn't make it out, which sucks. But yeah. Watchmaker, master of Dream Machinations. Watchmaker's telescoping lens. In the stories about the Watchmaker in Penacony, he always possesses a unique insight that allows him to easily discern business opportunities beneath the dreamy bubbles, and create grandiose enterprises that none have thought of. The frontier prison earned its freedom amidst the cancer of all worlds, and welcomed peace and prosperity under the radiance of the family. It is said that was when the Watchmaker entered the fray. His eyepiece reflected the essence of this dreamscape. People spend the wastrels in the moment of dusk, only to seek the impossible in dreams. From then on, Penacony's dreams started to contain many incredulous objects. Teapots that can tell jokes, race cars that twirl as they drive, and mansions that switch their location every day. Most of them are utterly useless. However, they are being sold at astronomical prices, and those who visit from afar are willing to toss mountains of cash at them. This is a fantastical dreamscape, so why not indulge in madness? The words exclusive and only in the dream are enough to redefine the worth of luxuries in the dreamscape. The Alfalfa family and old dream chasers from the commercial world often feel regret about this, lamenting that they did not spot these opportunities at earlier times. The Watchmaker simply saw a bit further than them, just a bit further every time. Watchmaker's fortuitous wristwatch. Why the Watchmaker is called the Watchmaker is the biggest puzzle in this serialized story. Some say he was once a craftsman at a clock tower. Some say he was once a merchant who sold timepieces. There are even those who say his head is shaped like a watch face, just like Clocky, which he created. As rumors abound, the wristwatches in the dream soared in popularity with the Watchmaker's fame. The Dream Chasers know these watches have nothing to do with the esteemed man, yet still regard the watches as a way to show their respect for him and a symbol of good fortune. Due to the promotion of many commercial activities, the clock symbol became the most ubiquitous thing in Penacony. Clothes, accessories, food, from graffiti in the alleys to the giant timepieces in the hotel lobbies. The influence of this legendary mogul can be seen anywhere. Who wouldn't like clocks in Penacony? The real Watchmaker seems to have assented to this and never expressed any opinions against that initial wristwatch design, till the clock symbol just became another fact of the life in Penacony, till no one ever asked about the origin of the Watchmaker again. Watchmaker's illusory formal suit. In the various legends in Penacony, the Watchmaker has very diverse identities and appearances. In these rootless fables, he is sometimes a kind old gentleman, an elegant lady, and even a giant gentleman hundreds of feet tall. However, no matter the version of the story, he is always magnificently dressed. Legends say that the Watchmaker will share his secrets with his dance partner at the dreamscape where dusk and dawn intertwines. Hearing this, people eagerly join the dance floor and invite every single mysterious guest hidden in the lavishly dressed crowd. More and more dream chasers meet each other in this way, and the ball gradually becomes a place to socialize for friendships and love. The expensive tickets are always sold out upon release. Even if the master dressed to the nines from legends never appeared, it did not hinder the passion with which the guests sought an encounter with him. Your outfit. Could you be the famous Watchmaker? This question went from what was initially a genuine query to an expression of flattery, finally becoming a code phrase for an invitation to dance. The Watchmaker gained a new business of hosting balls, and the dreamscape had an extra dash of romance and passion added to it. Watchmaker's Dream-Concealing dress shoes. The Watchmaker has trotted over every inch of the dreamscape, and also across the annals of Penacony's history. His name has been talked about for centuries in this land of dreams, and dream chasers of today can still hear of his whereabouts. People start to suspect whether the Watchmaker is one person, a group, or a lie woven by the family. Some dream chasers swear to unveil the truth about the Watchmaker. They head to various dreamscapes to seek traces of the mysterious mogul, only to gain nothing but mirages. A mysterious guest at a certain business negotiation. A masterless brand that soared into unexpected success. A huge investment with no traceable source. Every time they try to deduce that the Watchmaker does not exist, they are proving that the Watchmaker is everywhere in the dream. Books about the Watchmaker fill the bookshelves in the primal waking library. His name forever envelops Penacony. The more people want to discover the truth, the more they will be blinded by lies. Amidst the thousands of legends and rumors, this superstar of the festivities will only leave his footprints, but never his face. This video really has had some bangers of Relic set lores, I swear. Being able to learn about Mikhail, aka the Watchmaker, as he lived his life within Penacony and the Dreamscape is fascinating. I love the concept that he not only was the person that sort of manifested and built this dreamscape, but also he actually was the one that had the idea to sort of monetize it and bring in business to be able to flourish the community into something that can sustain itself. I think that's really, really cool. And I like that he beat the Alfalfa family to it, because screw those guys, they don't deserve any money. So I'm glad that he was sort of able to be the one that visioned further than them. I do like as well how there is the concept of the wristwatch being able to be sort of like tied in with like the myth of the Watchmaker, how people started to fantasize about it, idolize that, and that he became a legendary figure that nobody really could be able to prove that he existed, even though people know he did. They just wanted solid evidence. I do like that, you know, the wristwatch and the shoes tie into that, and I love how much of the mystery ties into the culture of Penacony, as the little robe, jacket, suit says, where people go to these galas in search of the Watchmaker, but in the end it ended up becoming a social event, and people are just using it to sort of build friendships or flirt, and that's just, it's really fun as an idea. Again, I like how all of this builds up the world further. And with that, we have covered yet another batch of Relic set lores that can be found within Honkai Star Rail's Caverns of Corrosion. Honestly, this particular batch had a lot of amazing sets. Like, the Messenger Deep in Hackerspace was probably the weakest, because that one did not have much association to somebody that we know or even a place that we have been yet, but it was still enjoyable seeing that little part. I do feel like the Longevus Disciple, talking about Dan Shu, that one was incredible and also super messed up. Like, I still genuinely think now, after reading that Dan Shu was kind of justified in what she did. And I used to hate her because, you know, we all saw what happened to Tingyun. We will not remember those times. But yeah, like, I mean, being called the incomplete one would also have me spiraling. The set talking about Ifrit, we barely knew him, but at least we knew of him, so at least it was cool getting to see what his ambitions were, and maybe we get to know a little bit more about like how the Dahlia had to be while being there, because, you know, she wasn't a member, quote unquote, but, you know, it's still intriguing. The Borisin set was cool, the Diver was cool, and the Watchmaker one was just a very wholesome one to end on, in all honesty. Naturally though, a lot of the things that I tend to say in these videos are subjective to my own interpretation and the way that I feel about them. So if you have a different opinion, I would love to hear it down in the comments. I love that this space is used as a place to interact with people, gauge people's opinions, what they think about the lore, what the implications of something might be, and as a whole, just the discussions that we have been having in the comment sections have always been a lot of fun and are one of the things that I genuinely adore about this community. So hey, if you enjoy this sort of content and would like to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes a second, and you know, if at any point you feel that the content that I'm creating is not up to par, it's not good anymore, it's just not something you vibe with anymore, you can always unsubscribe. That is a perfectly reasonable and valid thing to do. We are currently on our way to 4.5k subscribers, so any help is always greatly appreciated. Coming back after a long hiatus because I had to do my postgraduate degree genuinely feels nice. As I have been uploading videos, the channel has been getting revived slowly but surely, and it's just, I don't know, it's something that I'm grateful. I feel like coming back and not interacting with people and then being greeted back by them is a genuine blessing that I have been given, and I'm really happy to just see that while I have been uploading videos throughout this week. It's been absolutely lovely. I want to take this moment real quick briefly to just say thank you to the people that have essentially welcomed me back. I know that I've replied to people saying, oh, it's been great seeing you again, oh, how wonderful, oh, like, yeah, you know, I'm back, hi. But I want to just say it right now in voice, just to the people that I have replied. You all know who you guys are. Thank you for the welcome back. Thank you for still being hyped when I have resurfaced, and y'all are amazing. So yeah, with all of that being said though, I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, morning, whatever time zone you're currently watching this video at, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.